Hello folks, how's it going? So welcome to another One Piece review. This time I'll be covering Manga chapter 1099. Start off with the cover page with Odin on the cover with a cover request. We got a couple of Tanukis that's patching his hair. We get right into this chapter and Kuma is going on the rampage because King Bakuri, who returned in the previous chapter, he's like burning homes like he did last time he was here. So Kuma goes on a warpath. Kuma has, and instead of killing him, it looks like he warps him away and takes the throne of the King of Sorbet, which is good because we know he ends up becoming the King of Sorbet Kingdom, so that kind of explains things. Oda kind of like narrates that this would go down in history as Sorbet's one-man revolution. So they get word back at Marajose with Saturn getting word that it seems that Sorbet has a new king, which gets Saturn's attention because we know that King Bakuri has affiliation with the Tenryubito. So once again, Saturn is the only one that notices this. We don't get any depiction of the other Gorosei get word of this, so it's obviously leading to Kuma versus Saturn in the present. I don't know if that's going to happen in the next chapter, we'll have to wait and see. But so Kuma, the boss that he is, takes the throne and becomes the King of Sorbet. Then we go to the most head-scratching part of the entire chapter is, and it seems throughout all this time, all these time jumps and chaos, it seems like Bonney had already eaten the Toshi no Mi or the age fruit, because we see Bonney at the very age we see her when we first saw her in the series introduced, when she prevented Zoro from cutting down Charlos, the Celestial Dragons. This appearance makes perfect sense. What doesn't make sense is the fact that she already ate a devil fruit, and Oda just decides out of nowhere he's going to spring this on this. Now, I have no problem with Oda going a different route rather than the obvious that Bonney ate the devil fruit and that saved her life. That's not the case, but we do kind of have questions that need to be answered here. And as soon as like Bonnie's like, "Why are you looking at me like this?" Because she looks exactly like Ginny. And also, a thing to note is we also see the Sapphire Scare has spreaded a little bit. So Bonney, despite having the age fruit and not knowing why, she decides to like run around to get her stamina up, so that's actually pretty cool. But then the biggest question in the entire chapter is like, when did you eat the devil fruit? Like, you're Bonney, when did you eat the devil fruit? I'm like, yeah, right. Like, when and how? So I'll get back to that by the end, because I think that's going to be something that's going to be overlooked, or a lot of people are going to be asking questions about this. So, and we see Bonney trying to like get control of this ability, because she's like, granny time, granny time. In the meantime, you got Bulldog being the advisor, wanting an audience with Kuma, but Kuma isn't there at this point. We see a woman who's been aged by the devil fruit, and Bonney has no way to control this. So, yeah, so she not only changes her own age, but she's able to change the age of others, which we know. Advisor of the King of Sorbet, and immediately he brings sus vibes, because he also said, "I met your mother," and I'm like, really now, because the previous King of Sorbet locked up your mother and father in a cell before Dragon showed up and busted them out of there. So yeah, just gonna throw that out there. Mad sus vibes with King Bakuri's defeat, or at least Kuma taking care of him. Obviously he doesn't kill him, because I'm assuming it's because he's affiliated with the Tenryubito, like I said. But King Bakuri is plotting another comeback, because we get an article about Kuma and how he's the evil tyrant, which makes sense because of the nickname. We know he's nicknamed that. It's obvious the government is like trying to manipulate the media to make it seem like Kuma's the evil one here. So even back then, the government was like trying to manipulate the media into their image to make sure they're the righteous ones. It seems like Bonney has control, or at least some type of understanding of her abilities, because she's able to manipulate her own age into an elder. So that's kind of funny. Meanwhile, Kuma is like, "I'm gonna head out, stay here," and you do really have to feel for Bonney in this whole situation, because Kuma sets sail to try and take care of King Bakuri, who has a fleet of ships, a fleet of marine ships. They get taken down, and that's what earns him a bounty, because he attacked somebody that's affiliated with the Celestial Dragons. I kind of have to wonder if he's the scumbag that actually had set his eyes on Ginny. So Bonney gets lonely, obviously, while Kuma is traveling the world. And what's really cool about this is like we get different perspectives and different panels of Kuma traveling to different locations. Some of those locations would become very prevalent. Obviously, there's three things that stand out to me in this scene. Number one is, so we even see Weatheria, where Nami trained during the time skip. We see Muggy Kingdom, where Zoro trained during the time skip, which I'll get back to in a minute. We also see Tequila Wolf with the bridge, where Robin ended up. So I'll get back to that in a minute. But another thing that stuck out to me is the tribe, where the kind of like Skypians. At least that's what I thought at first. Until I saw one of the tribe members with the spear. If you look on his arm, he's wearing an eye symbol. There's a three-eyed tribe out there. The only member of the three-eyed tribe right now is captured by Blackbeard, that being Pudding. So I gotta wonder, and because we know Big Mom did her thing back in the day, had a lot of siblings in the past, so I gotta wonder if Big Mom paid a visit to them as well. Just gonna throw that out there. So that's another thing that stuck out to me. Just like I just mentioned, a lot of these islands is places where the Straw Hats went during the time skip. Now, granted, we didn't see all the places, like Amazon Lily. We don't know if Kuma went there, but we know that's where Luffy ended up. Muggy Kingdom was another island we saw Kuma travel to, and the reason why that's interesting is because not only did Zoro end up there, but also Perona ended up there when Kuma first demonstrated his abilities for the first time in the series. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And the reason why this is interesting to me personally is because a couple of reviews ago I mentioned, like, I depicted like a lot of people were like coming up with the theory that Kuma would show up to get the Straw Hats away and warp them to Elbaf, and I was hold your horses a minute, because we don't even know if Kuma has been to Elbaf or not. Now, this would have been a perfect opportunity for Oda to showcase if that is the case, then show Kuma going to Elbaf, because we've seen glimpses. I mean, he's already teased like Shanks' kid arriving on Elbaf, battling with Shanks already. He's already broken the trope of having the Straw Hats be the first one to land on a new island. So it would have been a perfect opportunity, in my opinion, but he hasn't shown it. Now, granted, like I said, it's not all the islands that Straw Hats went to, and because of this, I mentioned, does his abilities work if he's already been to those locations or he knows about those locations? Seems like that's the case, considering half of these locations the Straw Hats went to after he used his ability to get them away from Kizaru at Sabri Archipelago. Oda may reveal like this, he could change that, and Oda could reveal that Kuma did in fact go to Elbaf, but we don't know at this point. Plus, I said it doesn't make any sense because Oda's already teased with Vegapunk, saying to Nami, hey, the log post is pointing in that direction anyway, so what's the point in Oda having that if it's not going to play a role with them escaping after they escape? And remember, only one member of the Gorosei are there, technically, not all of them. So, and Oda's hype took this big incoming incident. So, have Saturn like return to Morojose after all this, after this flashback? No, something major is going to go down involving him and possibly Dragon. We don't know. That's some of the things that stuck out to me in this scene, where it is pretty cool that Kuma's like going to different places to like find a cure for Bonney. Even though she has the devil fruit, which I said before, it kind of shakes things up, because that was what I was thinking is going to save Bonney, but it's like, no, it's Vegapunk, which makes sense. So that tribe with the eye symbol, I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but that's one of the things that stuck out to me. Then Kuma bumps into Dragon's ship, and we see commanders or captains of the Revolutionary Army welcome Kuma back. We get a reunion, that's pretty cool. So what's interesting about this, we find out that Eva and Izama got caught and sent to Impel Down, which we know because that's where we see them caught for the first time, so that makes perfect sense. Dragon also realizes, hey, you've got quite the reputation on under your belt now. And then we got one woman, again, I kind of want to preface this, I don't know if that's Bella Betty or if it's a different woman completely. There was a woman that resembled this woman here during the Freedom Fighter days when with Dragon's old crew. But the other thing I will say, and this is another thing that stuck out to me, is like she apparently asked Kuma if how would you feel if I became the captain of the Eastern Forces, and Kuma's like, why are you asking me? It's like, and she responds by saying Dragon won't let anyone else have that position since it's Ginny's old post with, especially without your blessing. And Kuma's like, yeah, sure thing, go for it. And the reason why I ask is that Bella Bay is because she technically is the commander of the Eastern Forces of the Revolutionary Army right now. We know there's a commander for the North, South, East and West, so that makes perfect sense. So again, I want to ask, is that Bella Bay or somebody else? That's why I asked this, but that's just something that stuck out to me. And Kuma's like, I'd like to return, but I've got business to take care of. And then this is where Dragon brings up the whole situation about Bonney. Have you heard of the Navy scientist by the name of Vegapunk? There was an accident the other day, and he's going to have to switch slaps. So one, that's interesting that Dragon knows that, and number two, at this point we know Vegapunk is with the world government. So Dragon gives Kuma a lead. He goes off to try and meet up with Vegapunk. Kuma returns to the Sorbet Kingdom where Bonney, it looks like Bonnie's training, and the guard is like, oh, I went easy on her. So it is kind of cool that Bonnie's actually applying herself during the times of his absence. Follow that up by Kuma going to Egg Island, which makes perfect sense because Bonnie at the start of this arc said to Luffy, I remember coming here when I was very young, so this makes perfect sense. That ties that up. I was under the impression that Bonnie was going to get the devil fruit from Vegapunk, or she was at least going to eat it before she met Vegapunk. Technically she did, but it wasn't in this chapter. Diving out of that little chest, Kuma's massive at this point, and Bonnie's like, yo, your head's massive. That's kind of creepy. See Bonnie interacted with Sentomaru with Sentomaru's axe, which is pretty cool and funny. Now we get kind of like confirmation of how Bonnie was able to be cured. Apparently it involves stem cell transplant. So Oda's really going modern procedures here because this is kind of modern with stem cell transplants. It's very common right now. So with the amount of money and effort involved, the procedure is like making a cyborg. But he says he's gonna, no, I'm just comparing the codes. So transplant's probably gonna come from Kuma. It doesn't really officially state, Oda doesn't really officially state that, but that would make perfect sense. This is where we find out about the pacifistas and how that came to be. That's actually really cool. Vegapunk's like, yo, if you go through this, you don't have to worry about paying me or how much money this stem cell transplant is going to cost. So that's actually really cool on Vegapunk's part. But at the same time, this is going to backfire because even though Vegapunk says he wants to create clones that's going to help people out to become heroes, which is exactly what Kuma wanted to be, or emulate, which is really, really cool. It's like that's going to get shifted because we know they end up becoming weapons for the world government, which is really messed up. And Kuma's like, yo, I just would have made a deal with the devil himself, just save her. And to end things, Saturn gets word, apparently about the medical procedure. Saturn is getting word of this, but who's giving him word in the first place? This is why I said maybe that Bulldog advisor who worked under Kimbukuri, he may be a little bit sus right now. Either way, it's going to be kind of interesting to find out who Saturn's talking to directly, other than the Mushi. So the stem cell transplant may be what saves Bonnie's life, which I thought was going to be the devil fruit, which would have been the stereotypical obvious route, which I give Oda credit for, to like switch things up and make it not that predictable. However, like I said, this chapter comes with a huge question mark. Like, when and where did Bonney get that devil fruit if it wasn't in this chapter? Because I want to point this out. In the previous chapters, Oda has been spamming time jumps up the ass with this flashback. In this chapter, not only did we not get a time jump, we didn't get a depiction of Bonnie's age, which after the last chapter, an extra year went by when Kimbukuri returned. So it's either she ate that devil fruit during that year that went by in the previous chapter, or she ate that devil fruit before she arrived on Sorbet Kingdom when Ginny got her away. because there's no other reason. Because it makes no sense. Like, how did she get that devil fruit? If King Bakuri had it, that would make sense because if he was tied in with the celestial dragons, but we don't know because I already didn't really explain that. Yeah, this is a decent chapter. It's like they give us a lot of loose ends tied up. I thought we were going to go back into the present time, but I guess not. That's fine. Oda wants to go all in with his flashback. The only thing right now that really is a question mark is why Kuma allowed himself to become a cyborg. If he was going to be cloned anyway into what become the pacifistas. So there's something that more that meets the eye. Like I said in the previous chapter, when it comes to Ginny, we don't really know all the details about that. Context is important, especially when the devil fruit that Bonney has right now is kind of important to a character. So there's a lot of question marks about this, but maybe Oda's going to divulge into that maybe in the next chapter, or he's going to reveal that maybe sometime in the present, either in this arc or beyond, because Bonney's not dying. If the flashback transitions into the present and Kuma shows up to like rescue her daughter, I feel like that's kind of like the biggest thing that can happen right now for Kuma and for Bonney's character. If Kuma visited multiple islands that some of the Straw Hats ended up training at, then, like I said before, is Elbaf one of them? Because if not, then that may throw a monkey wrench into the theory that Kuma is going to use his ability to get the Straw Hats to Elbaf. Like, no. Which I didn't think that was going to be the case anyway, but hopefully we get some confirmation of that. Let me know what you guys think down below. We got a lot of dots that got connected thanks to this chapter, so I appreciate that. There's the things that are kind of head scratching to me when it comes to like Bonney's devil fruit and where she got that and when she got that. But hopefully we'll get that revealed in time, hopefully. That's going to do it for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like the review if you did, thumbs up. I appreciate that. Subscribe to have more One Piece. Thank you guys for your support. Catch you guys later. Thanks guys. Bye.